Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat, appreciate it. Today, what we're going to be doing is a more unique map analysis video, visualizing Ty Corbin's thoughts and ideas surrounding high probability locations of Dylan Rounds himself, okay? A contrast, arguably, to the previous video yesterday. Understandably, a fair few people could not make it for whatever reason. If you want to be on catch-up duty, there will be a link down below provided in the pinned comment section, okay? We can also refer back to that in a second, but yeah, we're going to be looking at the map. There's some key locations marked out and a bit of a radius. We'll zoom on in, have a look at each individual area. I'll give you my thoughts, my analysis, what I think about it. See if there's anything else in that area zoned in that's of interest. Any caves, mines, buildings, obstructions, whatever it may be. You never know what might show up. See if there's any images, those 360-degree markers within these like radius points, if you want to call it that. See if there's any custom uploaded photos, any new ones in between, okay, no harm in that. And there might be the odd other thing that needs to be talked about too, but we don't need to go too far. As for the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, we'll let that sink in as for like the previous video, but what I can do is give a debrief summary, right? It wasn't planned, right? But in terms of how I visualize it, in terms of my predictions with time, in terms of just observing human behavior, behavioral patterns, it was very telling and very showing last night. And arguably one of the most natural speed runs yet. I think we've broken a world record for the level of impetuous, egocentric behavior already at the beginning of that video, right? Where do we exactly start? Well, I mean, such as Ty Corbin himself, okay? There's been back and forths with him, his opinions and ideas and thoughts, whatever. Put that aside. In terms of Ty Corbin, how he internalized the video last night, he failed to understand the concept, the title, the structure, the foundation, and the meaning of that video. Another user called Vaughandis. Now, they did have an actual profile picture, which is a step up for once, because normally the whingiest, whiniest people tend to have a default profile picture. So I guess that's something. But of course, they've got zero content on their channel, of course. But let's just start off with Ty Corbin, first of all. So from the get-go, Ty Corbin complained, saying, this title is just pure clickbait. Yeah, I'm out of here. I'm going right now. Fast forward maybe an hour on, Ty Corbin shows up once again, and it's like, oh, hello Ty. Did you forget your coat or bag or something? Why are you here? You know what I'm saying? But the title itself being labelled as clickbait, arguably slander in a way, because you need to reread that title of my video. That applies to Ty Corbin. It can apply to anyone, everyone who might have a problem, a grievance with me or that video, okay? If you worded it as Dylan Rounds found, that could be considered clickbait. If you said Dylan Rounds has been found, that would be clickbait. If you say has Dylan Rounds been found, question mark, that's not confirming he has, it's questioning the outcome based off some information, based off an article or a response from someone. It's questioning, right? It's a level of uncertainty, okay? So anyone present right now, look at my mouth when I'm talking to you and understand this. When a question mark is used, it's normally used when you're asking a question. If you use the word why or the word has, that can be involved in a sentence which is leading into a question, requiring an answer, okay? If we rewind the video before that, which was the day before, if you bothered to watch that, you would have understood that a couple of people referred to it and questioned, has Dylan Rounds been found? It seems as if he has. Has Candice Cooley really confirmed Dylan has been found alive or etc.? Okay. That's what other people said. Other people that said that wanted me to cover a video taking a look at this response by Candice Cooley to clear up the uncertainty, okay? So to like mash it up in terms of a consensus, a summary of how people worded it, has Dylan Rounds been found? Even in that tone of voice, it implies you're asking a question. If you said, Dylan Rounds has been found, you're saying it with confidence, you're saying it with certainty, right? It's definitive. There's a difference. We'll say it one more time, okay? So welcome to Warlike Ref's language class, okay? Joy Perry could learn a bit or two, but she seems like an okay person, at least on here on this channel. But Ty Corbin and all the other whingy whiners who are egocentric, who are impetuous, who are not thinking before talking or typing, listen. Has Dylan Rounds been found? That's a question. This one. Dylan Rounds has been found. That's answering it. You see the difference. But once again, humans have failed to understand. Very disappointing. But we've seen these patterns before, or at least I have, okay? Now, reality is, if other streams in the background elsewhere weren't happening, if that was the case, the resistance would have been at an all-time high, okay? In terms of the numbers, at least people in the background, okay? It was around 62, eventually dropped to 31. 31 tends to be kind of a roughly average number. Consistent people, most likely ones who are not impetuous, most likely ones who may not agree, but at least listen to see what's being presented. That is good, okay? The rest are people that will come and go, which is understandable for numerous reasons, but of course, within a certain population, wherever that may be, virtual or in real life, there'll be a set of rats, okay? Whingy whiners squeaking away, not thinking. That's how it is. Did I create that term? No. Some of us did, so you can't get me on that either, okay? Now, the Shack Lady did actually respond to that video and I guess acknowledged or highlighted that there are like new people coming on into the case, people who might appear more casual with coverage, who doesn't understand the true depth. Whilst that might be true, Shack Lady, with some coming on in, Ty Corbin being impetuous, and he's been around for a bit within the case, and knowledge and experience, etc. So if he can behave how he did, then so can others, okay? And I have seen it myself, right? People that have participated in some way or just like watched videos with the Dylan Rounds case for maybe a fair bit of time, but they haven't been here, or they've been hiding in the background, okay? There could be numerous reasons for that, and we can get into it shortly. But the fact is, anyone is, has the ability to start acting impetuous, right? It's not difficult to be like that. But what I will say, as for certain viewers, and this isn't the whole and end list, right? There'll probably be others as well, but it was just like an on the spot. So the likes of Ellen, Joy Perry, Harry, Tom Evans, Seagate, Mama Down Under, Missy, Wanda, Starchasm, Wes, Linda, Indiana, Christy, Glitter Galaxy, Cleo. They're the type of people that are not only consistent in watching, which is very good of them to do that, but they also have a form of balance in which they will either agree and be supportive, which is very good of them, And if not that, they'll at least listen, even if they do disagree at times, and that's normal, you know. If it was such a situation where everyone said yes, nodded their head, and agreed, that's actually a worse state. It's as if they can't think for themselves or they're delusional, brain dead, brainwashed. That's unnatural. That's not good. But the people I've listed there are natural in terms of how they think, in terms of how they may listen or respond. You know, they're good examples, right? And there'll be other people too, of course. I just wanted to do a smallish list, just get my point across. Now, when you're talking about more outsiders or people hiding in the background who might eventually make their presence known when they start yapping on like this, they tend to be hypocrites. There you go. And one of the best examples of a hypocrite, I would say, like on the spot, would be Queen Ossian, if that's how you say her name, Queen Ossian, a person that has previously complained, criticised me for swearing, saying, Raf, you shouldn't swear, it's not good. Now, there's been other people that have said that with time, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever, right? They're just giving their opinion, their thoughts, not an issue. But when you have someone like that, Queen Ossian, saying, don't swear, and then you see her later appearing on Jim Terry's channel, donating 20 lots of dollars consecutively on a channel where there's a lot of swearing and insults, it's kind of like, huh, so you're saying that person can't swear, but that person can. Double standards. You yourself seem to, your presence implies that you don't like people swearing, and yet you support swearing. Very hypocritical, okay? I remember Tiffany Taboo, the way she was acting at one point, very hypocritical, very impetuous. The way Tucker was acting, very hypocritical, very impetuous. You see a tone, you see a level, you see a pattern, you see a consistency, okay? You see a geographical mapping, right? Tends to be people from the US. Can that be backed up? Yes, statistically speaking. Does it make sense? Yes, because the US tends to dominate the statistics in like the graphs, because they're the main consumers on YouTube, right? And as well, because the case is related to the US, it makes sense, of course. As for gender, that does not matter, that does not play a part, right? From my actual experience, when it comes to gaming, it tends to be male resistance, male complaining, whinging, whining, always got an answer for themselves, always got excuses, showing resistance towards me. When it's come to true crime, mysteries, for most part of it, or at least when I was doing the Kenny Veach case, it was mainly males that seemed to have an issue with me, which was interesting. Not everyone, but just like a high proportion, like a ratio, if that makes sense to you. As for the Dylan Brown's case, I'd say it's more mixed, which is good. It's natural in itself. Both can be as good as each other and also as bad, good and bad. That's just how it works. But level of hypocrisy, is probably at an all-time high, especially within this case, especially within this community, the way people act. 1 minute it's this, next minute it's that. Whilst yes, all the focus can be criticising Candice Cooley, you can also criticise others as well who are on the outside that are behaving in certain ways, right? So I think that almost like summarises it, okay, for that video. Another thing, linking on to Vordis, okay, complaining, saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. Why are you analysing this? Why are you analysing that? It's not necessary. Her as an example, and you probably could apply it to a few other people, okay? All the resistance as well that has followed with time. All these people within the Dylan Rounds case, I would not be surprised if they are the type to step into the Kenny Veach M-Cave case and tell me, have I heard about this? Have I heard about the CCTV footage? Did I know about this? Did I know about that? But I'm wrong. And it's like, you sit down, boy, and you listen, okay? You be a good boy or a good girl, because you have no idea what you're dealing with, especially when you first step on in, okay? This needs to keep shut, okay? With a little bit of research, a little bit of depth, then maybe you can open up. But I have seen it several times, and this is just from experience, this is my reality, where people have come on in and said, did you know about the CCTV footage? I watched a video of it on YouTube, and it's like, because I'm the first and arguably one of the only few to cover it on YouTube. So of course I'm gonna know because I was the first one to cover it on YouTube. It's like, what the hell were you watching, right? It might be like one or two other like video channels out there that have covered it, but you know, in terms of the one that appears up there, arguably it would be mine. Not due to the fact that mine's better, but just simply down to the views. As I said within the Dylan Rounds case, how other people's videos, even if they're old, show above front page and cover mine because it's simply they're more popular. That's just how it works. So the same would happen with the Kenny Veach case, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you. And yeah, these people come on in and they're like, did you know about this? Did you know about that? And I'm like, no, I didn't know anything. You know, I've spent 6 years analysing this and researching. Clearly, I have no clue where I am at. What's my name? Can you please teach me? It's like, fucking hell, you absolutely prat. Get a grip, okay? So yeah, it's one of those things where with these behavioural patterns, with observations made in the past, and just the simple fact that I've observed human behaviour naturally for over 8 years due to adaptation, due to negative experiences, I do have an idea of how things can go and play out. I've literally, you know, predicted how the Dylan Rounds case has played out. Maybe not always internally, but more to do with the community and the structuring of it, right? Some people have come, some people have gone, some people have made allegiances, other people have broken up, then come back, and it's like, what a mess. I mean, it's kind of funny. Rewinding back, looking at a past video, I don't know how many were all in on the live stream at a time, and this is an old one, okay? I think the Zav girl was there, maybe Pancakes was there, maybe Jim Terry and a few others. And, you know, actual facial expressions, smiling, happy, laughter, all casual, yeah. It's not like that now, is it? No. Supposedly the Zav girl with time blocked Jim Terry. Pancakes is back and forth with Jim Terry and vice versa. Some people in between are choosing sides and switching and changing. And it's like, you see that behaviour back then when they all came across each other maybe for the first time or so, a few little stepping stones. And then after that, with time, it just crumbled and imploded on itself. Now, you can't quite see facial reactions and expressions as much now because either someone's in a very dark, dim lit room, hidden behind the monitors, or they might just be short in height, or both. And then others that are hiding behind like a profile picture, others that have underpants on backwards, unable to drink or eat food, you know, just one of those things, right? But yeah, I think that summarises that part of the video. If it's long, tough shit. It needs explaining, okay? Now, another successful thing from yesterday's video, right? As we said, we've got this, okay? This can always be used. If in doubt, whip it out. But this is the thing. Certain humans, questionably, you know, ones, arguably, don't deserve this, okay? They don't deserve the wrath touch. No, 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 no. Other times, other means are necessary, right? As for the last video, what we did when we were taking a look at the spa and that Sonic fast food place, you saw the numbers drop down, okay, of people watching, right? Those type of moments can scare off rats, whether it be making them feel uncomfortable, whether it be because it's not worth their time. It just shows and demonstrates that there is a moment where cleansing can take place. Of course, you cover the most important topics, subjects first at the beginning of the video, structured in that form. So anyone that comes along, watching it there, listening in with updates, breaking things down, concluding stuff. Simple as that, okay? And then later on, you kind of separate it with just something a bit more light-hearted. Something Doug from No Thanks has acknowledged on his own channel. Something I guess maybe the Shack Lady hasn't acknowledged indirectly on her channel. One of those things. And other people do it as well, but they might not admit it, right? It's a little bit hypocritical behaviour there, but, you know, is what it is. So, with these like little breaks and pauses afterwards, it disperses all these people. So there was any cat fights going on earlier, any resistance, it either the run off with the tails tucked between their legs, or they simmer down because they're just completely confused to what's going on right now. Okay, so it's all under control. And believe me, when I say it's under control, it's under control. Okay? You understand? Don't make me repeat it. So, I think with that put aside, it's time to get into the map analysis of high probability locations of where Dylan could be found, interpreted visually by what Ty Corbin had said. Now, we can follow in with the odd few little updates in between as we're on the maps, because there might be some additional points to make note of. But let me share this with you, and as we go along, of course, in the live chat, you can share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions, okay, and talk about other things in between. Let's head on in now. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, we've got it mapped out. I also have kept the phone pings in just for the sake of it, because it might provide a bit more context, maybe a possible understanding of, well, if the pings are here and these places of interest are nearby, they could tie in with one another, right? Because whilst you think about the disposing of the body, okay, obviously the method, the timing, and who it was by when taking out Dylan is just as important. The disposing is important as well, if not more, because they're not what leads to finding Dylan, right? Of course, okay. Speaking of that, I believe it was Tom Evans that said the recent talk has slanted to the following day Dylan being disposed of, the Sunday, so the 29th. Now, although for some time now we've kind of locked in on the 28th, okay, based off what the previous talk was like and recent talk, if it's shifting once again, it could well be because of the recent findings, which Candice Cooley has not, explained to us yet. That's one way of looking at it, okay? Supposedly, from what Tom Evans has said as well, or no, it wasn't Tom Evans, I think it was Quinton saying that they found something in the wash. Now, of course, you've got multiple different washes out there. Which one exactly? Well, that's haven't really been confirmed or talked about too much. So, what tends to happen is you've got these placeholders at times. What we supposedly know of at this point in time, what we think, what we believe, it could be any of them. And like maybe a placeholder weapon that may have been used, a placeholder time, date, when such and such happened, okay? And it can be malleable. Changes with time, might go back, might go forth, especially in this case, okay? Now, if you remember, back in the past, at some point I was suggesting, right, naturally, this is what you got to take in mind, okay? So whilst we can look at these areas and we can tell the stories and try and understand the situation, when we go back to basics, because I don't share my opinion often, because I'm trying to maintain balance with all the other different point of views, it can get lost at times, right? But I can remember some of my opinions in the past. And one of them, kind of like in the early days of my coverage, was I felt that, okay, you got the 28th, which seems to be a significant day, but then you got the 29th as well. So you had like a day or a day and a half to dispose of Dylan at least, right? Until the 30th when family presence came round. And in the early points, I was like saying, do you know what, I wouldn't be surprised, 29th, that's when he was disposed of. Okay? That's what I was thinking. It was like a 2-day job. You would take him out on the Saturday, and then depending what time it happened, you might temporarily bury him, put him somewhere, and then the following day, take care of things, okay? So my rough basic opinions may may have been true from the beginning, I guess. We see how things play out with time because it does seem to switch and change. Now, what's about that? What's all the colour-coded options? Well, the red, first of all, the yellow and green lines aren't too important for this one, okay? The phone pings are somewhat important if you want to associate them with the places. The long-running red line is supposedly the wash. It seems to cover quite a bit of distance. Now, originally I knew it from near Lucin Pond and then coming all the way down here, okay? I've got the line, like, in parallel to the wash itself, and you'll see a pattern like that occurring a bit further on. And I've done that so it doesn't, like, obstruct the view of the wash itself, okay? But from what some people have said recently, okay, they've said about Grouse House Peak, Grouse Creek here, how the wash is somewhere up here and it runs its way down. If you want to contest that, feel free to do so. As for up here, the dirt road itself, it does eventually lead, if you go the right way, to Oakley up here, right? Now, what's the Oakley garbage dump? What's that got anything to do with it? Well, it's a good thing this marker has shown up now because I did fail to add the point in previous. So whether it's still relevant now or been cleared up, I'll just briefly highlight it. And if you want to counter the point, add to it, debunk, feel free to do so in the chat. But previously, maybe like some weeks ago now, Shack Lady's live stream, with a recent presence, re-emergence, Bob, that like retired police guy, was suggesting that somewhere in Idaho there is a dump, where maybe where Dylan could be, where Brenner took Dylan. Now, I don't know exactly where he got that point from, but, he seemed like he had an idea of what he was talking about, right? And basically all I did was just type in Idaho, dump, recycling place, landfill, all those types of words. And it came up in different areas, of course. Some way over here. But the closest one was down here, and it was in Oakley, right? You would have heard of Oakley previously, to do with possibly associated with where Don is at now, Don H, but there are counterpoints to suggest Wyoming instead. That's still kind of not been truly cleared up, right? There are still some loose ends, okay? But as I said, as soon as there is some kind of confirmation or some kind of debunking that can take place on a current event, a previous event, then that can follow to type the loose ends because, whilst it's good to clear up confusion for the people currently watching, it does help if new people step on in at a certain point in time so they can catch up quicker instead of going down all these dead ends. That's what can slow progress, right? It's okay being involved in a case from day one. You get the hang of the ropes, right? But you're coming in late and you got all these different avenues and, it takes them longer to know what's what and what isn't. You get what I'm saying? But yeah, it was the closest one in Idaho. As for a dump, a place itself, didn't seem to be any images, but I could try again. Idaho, and I guess I called it dump. I'm not sure if it will show up immediately. I guess it's down to wording, but there was one here. It just doesn't seem to show up. Can we zoom in maybe? There we go. Oakley Transfer Station. Unfortunately, no images show, which is disappointing, right? Could we call this a high probability area? Maybe not in the mindset of Ty Corbin, unless he does agree with what Bob has had to say. We'll just take a look. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly the place what Bob was suggesting or pointing out, but it was the nearest one I could find. And the actual route to get there is up Grouse Creek, or however you say the name, okay? And I remember whether it be Tom Evans or Quinton or someone, they suggested that, maybe Brenner or someone like Don would have gone up that way to get to Oakley, Idaho, like in relation to other discussions in the past. And it's like the back roads, and people have described it as a way where you get away from all the main traffic. It's not a highway. You avoid, I guess, police detection, right? So it's a quieter route to get there. And obviously, if you're disposing of someone, you want to take the back road, you want to go the quietest way. So you're not stop and search, there's no suspicion, there's less likely chances of being caught or less, lower chances of witnesses being present, right? It just makes sense. Now, I assume this is the transfer centre. Okay, so obviously I'm not an expert when it comes to landfills and dumps within the US, okay? I don't know if this is public access or not. You got some like boxes, cubes there. It could be rubbish itself crushed together, maybe. Kind of hard to tell. It might just be, is it tiles? Got some cows there. Finally, I've actually seen some cows. Is that scrap metal or is it just, I'm not quite sure because it doesn't look compact. It's just piled on top of each other. You got a machine there. Let's get a bit closer. What's going on over here? Like, you see all that piled on top? I'm not sure what that is, whether it's be paper, stone, but there's a lot of it. That looks old as well, rusty. Some kind of like railroad type stuff. Try and get a closer look at it. That actually looks more like stones, yeah. Yeah, stones, so not recycled stuff. So what's that doing there? Can you see? Definitely stones and slates, maybe some tiles as well. Why is that all collected here? I mean, it looks like it's in that like wire caging. I mean, I've seen it at times where it'd be like construction sites, some kind of like building work. They may use that type of stuff and put it in like a cube and cage it off. They've like use like wiring nets inside of mine shafts as well to prevent rocks falling on you, etc. So they have the different uses and whatnot. But this is like some kind of centre you go to from the looks of it. They're fans. Okay. Doesn't quite seem like a place general public would go to from the looks of it. I mean, it's quiet, that's a positive, but there just doesn't seem to be like much of a place you can dispose of something. Transfer station. Now, look, this is the thing. Transfer station, transferring of resources to companies, truckers maybe, construction-related stuff, right? But, as I said, when I typed in Idaho dump, this came up within the search, so you'd assume it's a dump. But from the looks of it, when looking ground level, it doesn't appear as a dump, okay? Is there any other locations? Let's just make sure we're facing north. As you see, when zooming out, there are a lot of different places, right? Transfer stations, landfill, solid waste, Cassia County landfill. Let's just take a look at that. Is there any photos? Okay, so look at that. So yeah, it's further out, further afar, probably more of a public populated area, but I'm just roughly getting an idea of these locations to which Bob from the Shack Ladies live stream said, oh yeah, Dylan could be up here in Idaho, disposed of by Brenner, that they took him down here. And from his tone of voice, he wasn't like saying it with a lot of uncertainty. He's, as I said, he seemed like he had an idea of what he was talking about. And also, you do have these people with background sources where it comes from as well, and all the little secret contacts and communication going on behind the scenes, right? Okay? That's what happens, like the iceberg effect, just with the Dylan Rounds case. It's okay saying, let the mother, let the LE handle this. And you know what, I'll point it out right now, because I probably didn't mention it earlier on, to be honest. The likes of Vaughandis, that woman that was complaining, criticising me, saying, you shouldn't be covering this or covering that. You should leave it to the police, the mother to do it. And it's like, well, why leave it to both of them when they both can't get on side with one another in the first place? They're both tugging and pulling each other's straw and hair, right? So it's like, why let both of them work it out when both can't work together or cooperate due to all the messy internal stuff going on, right? Let them do what they need to do, but separately, I guess, so there's less conflict. So just like with me, I do what I do, keep the case alive, at least on YouTube, right? But obviously, Vaughandis failed to understand that. Yet, once again, egocentrism showing within Vaughandis, and there'll be many others as well. And the only point I highlight and the question is, if people have that idea that this should not be analysed, nor this, nor that you shouldn't cover it in the first place, that you shouldn't talk about it, all I ask or, hint at is, what they say to me, do they say to everyone else? Because if they do, fair enough, consistency. But if they only say it to me whilst watching other people's live streams, it's like, you two-faced bastard. Don't you dare say that to me. You're not going to say it to others because other people have done similar things, right? So you're going to pull someone down, you pull the other person down at the same time, right? Very simple. But obviously, this is the problem. This is where we start seeing biased behaviour, where we start seeing two-faced hypocritical behaviour, where they'll support one but not the other, where they'll be neutral with someone but not with the other. And it's like, this case requires balance, right? Just like with any other case, any other mystery, hit from different points of views. And if you're only tuning in to certain points of views, certain theories or ideas or concepts or structures, and you're ruling out the other stuff, you've already failed. You get me? Very simple. Anyway, move on. Now, this really was the case. What is it, like some kind of Quentin Simon case found in the landfill? Maybe. I mean, with the Quentin Simon case, they might have been a bit more proactive with that more serious matter, police dealing with it differently compared to the Dunn Rounds case. So, if they were able to find Quentin after some time in the landfill, and that was with a bit more effort, with the likes of the Dunn Rounds case, which has dragged on longer, going to a landfill could take significantly longer to find done. And it depends if they've had leads or tips to actually go to these key locations, right? Because you had the Montello dump collection point, and you had the Wendover one. Have they really been searched? Has anyone really gone down there to at least tick it off the box? Not really been talked about since. You know what I'm saying? There's a couple of things. Any other photos? Because this is the thing. This is all I say. If there's a possibility that Dylan was taken, or let's just say remains, or let's even just say clothing, some kind of evidence in those bin bags during that spring cleaning June the 2nd, and supposedly Brenner put them in his truck or near to his truck, and then a bit later went somewhere, supposedly Wendover, with Don, and maybe to dispose of them. Are you able to get away with doing that stuff? Like, when you first get there, the actual thing you're disposing of, is it in tiny bin bags, a long bin bag? Because you could get away with it and say, I'm just disposing of a carpet, a rug, because it has been known that sometimes when people have been disposed of, they've been rolled up in a rug and then dumped somewhere, concealing the body. Because just like with Christmas and you're opening a present and it could be a basketball or a football, when you see it wrapped up, you're thinking, it's a ball, right? When you have a scooter or maybe a bicycle wrapped up, you're going to think, I know what it is. So it's all about concealing it, right? Although it's wrapped up, it still shows, it's still telling to what it is. That's what I'm talking about. If you're going to be disposing of something quite serious, are you going to be able to get away with it in a place like here, a place like Wendover, where there'll be, a certain amount of people present, maybe workers there, whether it be cameras, CCTV, if they do exist, and or if it's just general public disposing as well, right? What do you think in the chat? I mean, we could do a little poll. Do you think that Dylan was disposed of at a dump slash landfill, or do you think that certain bits of evidence was at least taken down there? Okay. Okay, what's this? Some kind of construction. Is this a construction of the landfill? 2018, an extension. Well, I got some structure down. Okay. The reason why we use these images is just to see what the area looks like itself, right? Is it busy? Not? Is it vast? Open? Sparse? And from the looks of it, it's quite sparse and open. I mean, this is the other thing what we've got to acknowledge. The fact that people can dump stuff in the middle of the desert and get away with it because it's in the middle of the desert. You can be done for littering in Montello, right? If you got the little neighbourhood watch, and there's been crime reports in 2021 of that happening at least 2 times. But literally, right in the middle of the desert, you probably can get away with stuff. Burying stuff in the ground supposedly has already happened. Other rumours, theories that there's money buried near Dylan's place as well, and maybe some other things too. And maybe Brenner has buried stuff as well in the past elsewhere, right? These little patterns of behaviour by people, it's telling, it's showing, so it could have repeated itself once again. And to quote from, well, roughly what Lance said, when Lance was talking about the maybe bones of Dylan or some kind of evidence being disposed of, such as Wendover, it could have been along the way. Maybe someone like Brenner and Don were going down to Wendover, but not directly disposing of the bin bags in Wendover, but during the journey there. So dumping it on the side of the road, burying it in the ground, taking it up to like maybe slightly higher grounds, you know, that type of thing. So you don't have to just suddenly concentrate and zone in and say, landfill, this is exactly where Dylan could be, or where the bin bags evidence are. It might be just before it, on the ride, on the road, whichever one they followed, okay? Got a few stones. This is just like old construction, so we just skip past this. We've got a bit of a landfill showing down here, as you can see. I mean, this is the other thing you got to take in mind. When it comes to finding remains, arguably, you got to take in the size proportion. When you had Quinton Simon, who was significantly younger, of course, the actual skeletal remains are smaller, okay? So maybe at first glance, it's harder to see them if they're amidst rubbish and rubble, right? Whereas with Dylan Brown being taller and, you know, more fully developed, probably show a bit clearer too. So just a little point. The turbines in the background, see a lot of space. Not too much rubbish, but it depends at the time. 2017. More construction. Okay. Some things being built there. We don't have to look at all of them. Just a couple. What's that? Machinery. Okay. Crates. See these mounds being formed. Maybe stuff buried. Excess dirt. Yeah. And then you got the likes of this, which not the exact one, but kind of similar to what you see at the grain shed, the pole barn in Lucin, used for flattening down the ground. Now, I assume that would have been used at the time when kind of like landscaping the area to make the ground a bit more compact so vehicles don't get stuck in the mud. You know, supposedly has happened previous, and like at Dylan's farm. But it could have also been used to flatten the ground if you were burying something, right? But the other thing you got to take in mind, if external equipment, machinery was used, they probably wouldn't have disposed of Dylan too far away because you'd have to take that machinery with you. And if it moves very slow, it's going to take time to get from here to wherever, right? You got to think of the fuel, the gas, etc. It could use up a lot. When well, maybe not you, but when I've seen Heavy D's videos of like other stuff, whether it be excavation, whether it be mining in an area, mines, digging up the ground, recovering a vehicle. Yeah, they might take big, bobcat diggers or something. They take all this kind of heavy machinery, but to get from their like workplace into the mountains, let's say, they'll transport it on a big truck. They're not going to drive a digger all those miles to a place, you know. It would take too long and it wouldn't be practical. So in the case of disposing of Dylan, I don't think they would have used like trucks to transport vehicles from place to place. It'd be too big of an operation for what it's really intended for, not practical. Where's that person got a tripod? The hell? My God, have you never seen a digger before? An excavator? God. Anyway. There we go. And speaking of which, that it might be the same in different parts of the US, but where was it now? Was it Georgia? Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's the name of the town. The place called Savannah, where the Quinton Simon case, where at the landfill, the young person was found at the landfill of Savannah. Is that in Georgia? I can't remember. But regardless, that Savannah landfill, I remember when I was looking at the entrance of it, right? And there was like a green truck going in, I guess, disposing of it, and it looked exactly the same as this one. I don't know if it applies from state to state, but it seems to here with Idaho and a place called Savannah, which is in a different state apart from one another. Interesting. Right. I'm not saying that Dylan was like disposed of in like a bin and then this truck collected him. I'm not exactly saying that. I mean, like, is anyone watching right now from Montello where you have your like disposal point, your little landfill, your little collection of rubbish? How often do vehicles come along to collect it, and then where do they go to dispose of it? If anyone knows, feel free to list it down below. It could be useful. And what type of truck is it? Is it similar to what we see on screen right now with the green load? Yeah. Feel free to answer if you want. One knows, yep. That'll do. So, yeah, we got that talk about the landfill or some kind of dump place where Dylan's at. Or some kind of evidence. Make sure we're facing the correct way, yep. Work our way down, okay. So we've kind of looked at Grouse Creek. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any photos in the area. Not from the looks of it. Does Grouse Creek have any photos? Oh, what's this? Grouse Creek is an unincorporated community in the nearly unpopulated northwestern region. Okay, well, we'll just have a look at it. Only one image. Right, so basically they're saying it's pretty quiet, okay? Which is a positive for someone that may want to dispose of something dodgy, right? So when I turn this way, we are now facing south. We're looking south down that way, roughly. And it's somewhere here. You got like a pivot there, of course, where it's circular. And round this point, it might not be for definite, okay, so you can correct me, but is this the beginning or at least the end of the wash, right? The one that eventually comes down into Lucin? Does anyone know? It's just because when looking at characteristics of a wash, okay, they might have a certain feature about them. There's a bit of depth, it sinks in. It might wind, twist and turn with the bends, in bends and outward ones, as you can see here. It looks like it. And then there's like a light coloured path. Now this is the thing. In the past, when I've been looking at maps, I think it was more to do with Kenny Beach, and I said, oh look, you got that pathway which goes up here, which goes down there. And I kept getting corrected as others were saying, no, that's not a path, it's a wash. So I'm kind of under that impression now that this is a wash and not a path, okay? What we can do is follow it down, and that's the purpose of that red line. The red line guides us down, okay? So this looks like where it ends or where it begins, okay? I'm going to say where it begins. You can correct me, of course, in the chat. take in mind, do not get, I know not many will, but the odd person will. Do not get your pants in a twist. Take in mind, I'm not an expert when it comes to washes, okay? And when I say washes, I don't mean washing one's body. I mean washes in like this, what we see on screen, okay? You see it go in and out from the looks of it. There is a bit of greenery around, but it does dip down in the middle part. And in some areas it looks like it fades out, but you can kind of see the depth, how it sinks, roughly. And you can see a few rocks. And once we get here, it bends around this way. Feel free to chat in the live chat as I just go along here. There's not too much to narrate at this moment in time. Now, there is a place called Rosebud Wash, but I did try searching for it. It did not show up. So I know, and I will acknowledge, that's another location Ty Corbin had suggested, Rosebud Wash. And I believe he did go there himself previously at some point in a video, okay? But it needs further investigation, searches in the area. Now, as said, I can't find it on here because it's not named, okay? Just like when you get the mines and mine shafts. Maybe a different app might reveal it, but if I do stumble upon it, Rosebud Wash, make sure to give the timestamp down below and I will mark it an update, okay? So, it looks like we're still following the wash down. You can kind of see like a snake-like pattern. Should we get rid of that border? There we go. That makes it a little bit easier. And we just follow it down the middle. Now, are we suggesting that this is exactly where Dylan is at? No, not exactly, but you never know. Because all that talk about a wash, but it's like where? First of all, it's which wash. Then second, it's whereabout in the wash. Because some of them do seem to cover a fair bit of distance. They go on for a bit. And it's like, how far down or how far up are we talking? I mean, you could argue saying that if for whatever reason they went to Grouse Creek or went up that way, which is quite a longer journey, they could have just decided to dump Dylan at a certain point or some bin bags. We don't seem to have any photos in the area, unfortunately, so we can't get like a ground bird's eye view look of it. So that's why we're looking at it this way. You can start to see it opens up, it becomes much wider now compared to what we're looking at earlier on. You see how it's thin up there, but the width has definitely increased. You see the depth as well, you see the ridges. Turns around here, bit of a twist, bit of a bend. You see these twists, this does look like a wash now. Okay. And the only reason why I'm doing this camera movement, I know someone like Indiana will probably get motion sickness, but it's just to simulate the shape of what we're looking at so you can track with your eyes more appropriately. Comes down here. I probably will speed it up because there's only so much I can talk about when it comes to this supposed wash. Okay, it does seem to really drop down here, like the height of it. You see the curve? Now, we'll see if it does link on with one of the previous things I noticed. Once we get here, it comes down this way, okay? Comes down here, and then we've got like a dirt road itself. Does the wash end? I mean, the dirt road looks like it drops down into the wash almost, unless there is a little bridge that goes across. You've got to take that into mind. It doesn't show here. Looks can be a bit deceiving at times because of how we're looking at the place. But yeah, let's just keep following it. So, fair bit of distance. And we can do like a rough check of how long it goes on for, of course. You start seeing the markers in the distance ahead over there, okay? What was that called? Grouse Creek Valley or something? There you go, Grouse Creek Valley. Are there any photos? Nope. Don't know why I did that then. Okay, apologies about that. Work our way back down. Where about was we? Somewhere here, maybe? Unfortunately, we just got to load back in, of course. We got the Thousand Spring Creek. Does that have any names? No, it doesn't. That's a shame. I guess that's the thing, when you got these like lined areas, if you click on it too soon, it interrupts it. Do we have anything of interest here? Not really. Get rid of that bastard. But you can see how it twists and turns. Okay. We're at a good angle as well. And I think the water comes down this way into Lucerne just based off the gradient, because it drops down. So the flow would be coming down this way for sure. You see the twist and turns, and also when it's going on the bend, so it'd be the inside or the outside one. I think it's the outside one. That's where it's most fastest, the flow of water. Okay. Start turning away from where we're originally going, and then it bends all the way back round like this. Yeah, I mean, you could call it like a little wash tour, because we've never gone this far up, right? Get to this point here, which I believe there is a bridge, because this is like a highway, and of course it doesn't look like that in real life. But considering we're at this point, we probably could do a street view, I hope. Let's give it a try. There we go. Just to see what it looks like. Is it a bridge? Boom. Boom, boom, boom. I'm locked on. I've got it right. Visually speaking, it does look like a wash, okay? There'll be people watching right now thinking, okay, Raf, whatever. We already knew. Well, good for you. In terms of my own visualization, because this was all done independently by me, you know, first time impressions, looking at this map or certain area and pinpointing it as a wash when I didn't have any true for definite confirmation. So I was able to operate, right, to a certain accuracy and degree, which I'm glad, okay? And as well, the most important part, at least from the Google Earth point of view, when I said, oh, and here we've got the highway and it bends down, it like drops in. Obviously unrealistic, but you know, because like 3D models at times it's difficult to depict bridges and stuff. So where it looks like the road might go into the wash, that's not the case here because it's with a bridge. But you see the width of the wash, of course, very wide, which we have seen, and you know, it does get a bit narrow further on when it goes around the bends, but it does open up, very similar to what we've seen when going into Lucerne and that area of the wash, okay? Because from the looks of it, it's all one, or it connects from one to another, at least in the direction. There you go, much wider up that way. Now, could you get a vehicle down there? Maybe. I'm not so sure about this spot specifically, but, you know. Anything else to look at? I mean, it looks like it's kind of reinforced. Does it overflow? Maybe if it was really heavy. Can't quite see in the distance. I think you've got some overhead lines over that way. That could be going into Lucerne. Let's just rotate round. Like that. Flick the image. Right, so that's the way we've came. And the way we were just looking was approaching into the Lucerne area. So we'll continue that here. Bends in and out. Up this way. Thousand Creek Spring. We probably was here a bit earlier, but then because of the camera angle and everything spazzing out, it pushed me back. Okay. Seeing all the markers show up now, of course. Bending inside and out. Thousand Spring Creek. Yep. Keep on going, of course, and then we can move on. That red line's a bit further out here, but that was just so it didn't interrupt with the main feature what we're looking at. Just wanted it to run in parallel to one another. Okay. Are we getting there? I think we might be. And you got a dirt road here, which then dips down, but that could be another deceiving looks, I think. Get to this point. And then, when we look here, you might be able to see it. I can clearly see it. For once, it's actually kind of 3D. So that railroad area, can I put a marker? That area there, the railroad, just below it, you can see the wash. It goes underneath it. There's like a tunnel or a pipe or like a bridge. Whichever one it is, the water goes underneath it, okay? Hopefully that makes sense to you. I don't know if it's filled with water or not, but it goes underneath and comes out on the other side, okay? You can see like a little black hole. There we go. Let me just put a marker down so you can see. That's what I'm talking about, where that red little beacon point is. It's like a little tunnel, 2 lots of them that go underneath the railroad tracks. And that's come all the way from Grouse Creek. All the way from, where is it now? Up there, where that blue marker is. That wash marker, Grouse Creek, has come all the way down that red line, all the way down to here. To this point here, okay? So let's keep on following it. And as you see, look where we are now. We've got the grain shed over there. We've got that wash marker there, the splash marks on truck. Possible location of Don. We, I think, are actually in Lucerne right now. Get to this point here, it becomes kind of open, whether it ends directly here or it continues on. Because we've got the continuation of the wash. Okay. See where it dips down? Got the pond just here. Okay. And if we were to follow this, and you would have seen it before, if we follow it, this is like the main big boy wash, which Lance has gone to. Corbin has visited as well. The one that gives it away more here is the width of it and the brown marks as well. That's what made me think, this is the wash. You know, all the stuff beforehand I never knew was a wash until I looked a bit closer, okay? It goes all the way down here. And it might go on a little bit further as well, okay? But it kind of like, I don't know, like reaches an end point around this area, okay? Just want to do a quick distance check, of course. It doesn't have to be too accurate. Just wait for that stupid white marker to get off the screen. There we go. Zoom out too. It won't be completely accurate due to the marker being a bit out, but just get an idea. Zoom in here. So at least up to the final phone ping, the wash from Grouse Creek up to, well, down to Lucerne is about 15 miles. Okay, that's a fair distance. And then up to like near Jim's trailer, across from the grain shed, it's about 17 miles. And then if you just ran it off down here, I'd say about 20 miles, maybe a bit more. That's quite a bit of distance for a wash. Quite a bit of distance for water to travel down, and enough opportunity to pick a designated spot, whether it's further north or lower down, to dispose of Dylan or something else, right? From the looks of it up to now, Dylan has not been found, but possibly evidence has additional, and it might be associated with the wash. Quinton did point that out. If Quinton's watching right now, where did you hear that from? Was it just like another channel on YouTube discussion, or was it like some other little contact in the background that reached out and acknowledged? Either way, progression is being made, which is a positive, right? And this video kind of highlights it. But of course, you put the wash aside just for now. There are some other locations to take a look at, and these are more to do with Ty's ideas, okay? We can look at the one down here first of all. So, we have looked in this area previously. Have we looked deep enough? I mean, I think we've looked at it, to a reasonable extent. But from what Ty has said, he believes that there's a chance that Dylan could be in this area, either around mainly Governor's Spring or just on the other side of it, Bald Eagle Mountain. And, they have been there previously, obviously in the past, okay? When they've been searching, been looking at the mines and mine shafts, Heavy D and his crew have been there too, right? They did not find Dylan back then. But there are still locations to search within this area. It's just a rough radius, okay? That's what I called it. These 2 points here, Bald Eagle Mountain, as you see, the surrounding area. All up here, these roads, pathways, possible mines, mine shafts. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but just that looks like a black hole. That looks like some kind of mine shaft, vertical one, maybe. Just drop a little coordinates there. As I said, it's difficult to look for mines and mine shafts and sometimes caves as well when you're looking on the maps, because the size of them, they're not that clear. There's like one time I saw a cave which looked telling and obvious, and that was in Antarctica, some kind of possible secret military base or some kind of secret base in general. If you want to know more about it, I can provide a link in the video down below. And the reason why it was more telling that was the shape of it, how it came to, and like the edge of it, and then below it there was like an overhang, and there was also like a shadow projected on the ground. So it looked like it went into something, right? So that's what gave it away. Whereas when you look in here, it can be a bit more deceiving. You see all these shadows in the mountains, but it could be casted by other mountains nearby. You see darkness, dark spot. You might assume, there's depth. It goes into something. It's a cave, but it's literally just like a very shallow cave or some like gap in the rock, and that's all. So it can be deceiving, but there's quite a bit to look at in the area, of course. Quite a bit distance to cover. What I do want to say, let's just ask Ty, because he's more likely to respond. That's providing he's here right now, and if not, someone can pass on the question. As far as exploration and searches go in the Montello, Nevada side of Bald Eagle Mountain, Ty Corbin, out of 100%, how much have you searched, or how much do you feel you have searched of the area around Bald Eagle Mountain, which you've suggested as a high probability place on the Montello, Nevada side? Out of 100%, what would you rate it? Okay? Just to get an idea. Now, obviously, it's not just this side, because it did say about Governor Spring. Now, first time I heard of this place was mentioned by Lance Kelly when, I can't remember when it was now, but it wasn't that long ago, maybe a few months, couple of months, I would say at best. When Lance said he was going into Lucerne to check the area out, to check the mines, and so on, okay? Now, they have been here once before. They did not find Dylan. They might have found something like bits and bobs of items, but nothing extremely relevant, right? How much can you search here? Because, looking at the pathway, I don't know if it looks like a road, yeah, but it doesn't seem to branch off as much. You know what I'm saying? When you look at this area, it's more mountainous, it's more natural. Whereas on the other side, you got all these pathways, these roadways, dirt roads, which branch off all over. It makes sense because on this side, with the mines, the mining going on, kind of like what you're seeing here, this like crater, and also lower down, whereabout is it? Lower down here, which is like a mining place as well, which Scott Natal did go to, okay, and you saw it in his video. You're going to have more, whether it's still ongoing or just from the past, but it remains traffic in the area, pathways, roadways being created, because in this area it's being used, or at least it was being used for mining. So the workers would have had to get about, to get there, to drive about from one place to another. You need roads, you need some kind of pathway, right? Of course. And there's more traffic on this side in comparison to the other side, just based off the lack of routes here. Not as many roadways, right? I mean, you can go on foot, but maybe it's not as practical, right? I mean, you look here, yeah, it looks like a dirt road. Bends in and out, but then it gets to a certain point where maybe the pathway fades away. Here. But Governor's Spring, the one what Ty Corbin highlighted, pinpointed, saying this is possible location, rough area to where Dylan could be taken to. Is it likely? Are you associating it with the mine shafts on this side? I'd believe that's what you're thinking, because what we've also got to take in mind is you will have other mines and shafts elsewhere, right? On lower ground, which is probably more practical and more suitable for someone like Brenner or Don or someone else to dispose of Dylan, right? As we said previously, I think the consensus was more likely a vertical mine shaft rather than a horizontal mine you go in. You just want to kick the body down into a hole, right? That's probably the most effort the killer, the accomplice, if there was any, would do. They don't want to travel extreme distances, I guess, and they don't want to have to go up steep slopes, winding pathways, just to drag a body. I don't think that would be the case. But at least here there is a dirt road, so they were in a vehicle. They could get here, of course. At what point do they stop, get out, and dispose of Dylan? Unknown. But it just seems less opportunities on this side, maybe. But because of all the vegetation, whether it's there all year round or not, it feels like there's more opportunity to maybe conceal a body. Maybe. I mean, yes, you can put the person in the ground, but if you got vegetation growing around it, that can conceal in a way. But what you got to take in mind, you're going to be digging the ground. There's going to be disturbing maybe or vegetation already in place. So you're going to get patchy areas. So I guess whoever is going down to Governor's Spring, they've got to be on the lookout for patchy areas. Kind of like the original investigation for the first time where Lance went down to Brenner's burnt down trailer, and although it was supposedly debunked, where the shovels were at in the ground, it was quite bare around it, like it's been disturbed, and that's likely the case. Not in recent time, but at some point in the past, and it's evident because the other vegetation, which is nearby, hasn't been disturbed. It's grown, it's established. But this spot where shovels are, it's slowly growing back, right? So, a place like this, you'd have to be on the lookout for. Oh God, why is it spazzing out? I don't like that. I think it's when you zoom in or something at a certain angle. There we go. I mean, even just like parking up on the side of this road and then what? Taking Dylan round here in the ground. Do we have any actual photos of this place to kind of like narrate? Governor Spring doesn't allow me to look at the photos, but what we do have the option of is that little blue dot right there. Take in mind, I did look for blue dots up Grouse Creek in the past, and there was zero, okay? We have seen this one before, but we'll just load it up anyway. I don't think it's in the exact spot as what we were looking at just then, but, you know, you get an idea, okay? So this is kind of like what we're dealing with as for the loose inside. And as I said, you don't see any pathways or that many roadways. There might be one up there. Maybe that was the roadway we were looking at, possibly. But for most part of it, I would say, there's not as many, you know, roads. And I don't think Brenna Don's going to be going off-road around here because it would be very dangerous and silly, of course. I mean, could Dylan have been just rolled down the hill and fumbled and tumbled down there? I mean, possibly, you know, if you found the bag of bones chucked by the side of the road, which was underneath a tree, a bush, the way it was described there, that was in Montello, by the way. Someone could have been driving along on the dirt road and then out the window slung out the bag and it rolled down the hill like here and then landed near a tree or got stopped by a tree stump and then remained there until Lance came along and Ty, when the, you know, and then found it back then. But would that happen with Dylan? You know, the size of him, it would stand out right, wouldn't it? But aside from that, in terms of this area at least, you can see the thickness, the density of all these trees and the amount of them. There's a lot in the lower valley and up here too. Yeah. Is that a power line? I think that's an overhead power line, yeah, down there. Is that snow? Kind of looks like it, but I might be wrong. It shouldn't be, because you can't really see snow further up here. Might just be the colour of the lighting of it all. But you look down there, you look at the quality of the ground. Gonna be checking, I guess, checking out for mounds as well. Mounds of gravel, dirt on the upper level. But you could definitely like conceal. More concealment here. Now, this is the thing. These drones being used in the wash, the farm area, Dylan's farm, the grain shed. Have the drones been used somewhere like here, like Governor Spring? Yes, no? Yeah. You get an idea of what it looks like, at least visually speaking. There we go. So that's Governor Spring for you. Place of interest. Place where Dylan could be at if you're searching around. Don't mean to say Governor Spring right at the top, Bald Eagle Mountain right at the top. It could be a bit lower down here, of course. It could be on the side, right? Just wanted to do like a rough radius, at least. Okay? Because I know you got areas down here as well, which may not be directly near Governor Spring, but yeah. Tunnel Spring number 2. Never heard that mentioned in the search videos. Doesn't Don't want to spend too long here because we have, probably done it before in the past. So I think what we should do now is move on to Pigeon Mountain. Pigeon Mountain I've not really talked about as much on my channel at least, but Ty Corbin did, point it out. Is it a mountain? I guess so. Not as big as the others what we've seen. And he was saying like the surrounding area of Pigeon Mountain and about, okay? So that can apply to the back of here. I'm only going to look at it briefly, okay, because we don't need to go too deep, but it's just like looking at, is there any pathways, any little dirt roads, little concealment points, containers, crates, good opportunities to dispose. You got all these like ridges, right? Yeah, I have seen that type of terrain quality in the Mojave Desert, okay? So I have seen it before, and it tends to be near mountains, yeah? Covers a bit of surface area, this one. It might not be as tall, but it's wide. Yeah. Concealment points around here, possibly. Just depends if drones have been used or not. I don't know if we'll get any images. We'll do that in a second. Just wanted to do like an overall check around the outer area. This point though up here, it'd be a wash or a spring. And down here as well, where it splits off two ways from up there. There isn't too much like i.e. in objects or buildings, but there's enough ground and area and land to be dug up if needed, enough opportunity. I think that'll do for that area. On top, is there anything when looking down? Looks a bit dark brown there, some kind of dirt, sand, I don't know if it's a mine shaft. Is there any, like if Ty Corbin can respond now, is there any mines or mine shafts near this Little Pigeon Mountains? If so, I can understand your reasoning, thought behind it. I just click this. Doesn't seem to. Little Pigeon Mountains, weird. Wonder why it's doing that. Let's just type it in just in case that works. Lucerne. Not Little Caesars. No. Is it coming up? Little Pigeon Mountain. Pigeon Road. That's not what I want. Right, why is there two though? The same thing, right? So it's detected it, but there's no photos whatsoever. But there is that one next to it, which is weird. Unfortunately, you click on the other one and still it just doesn't show any photos. Two designated spots, beacons, and yet no user photos uploaded. You thought, with people hiking in the area that would have visited around here, but doesn't seem to be the case. But then again, it is not much traffic here, and there's not really been any true hikers even taking photos in the area. Just more of a open opportunity for someone to dispose of, like Dylan, right? What I would say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but some of these locations, what we've looked at today, have not been talked about maybe as much, right? I know Ty Corbin's mentioned it, but I'm talking about other people, maybe the likes such as Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, family members. They've not really referred to these places as much. They've been more zoned in and focused on the farm area, the pole barn, grain shed, and just there, not really branching out. And maybe that's what the problem is. Sure, they might still find stuff related to Dylan to do with the case, which is all good, but Dylan himself, right? You can leave your thoughts to what you think about this area and areas we have taken a look at, okay? Likely he wasn't, if this was like a suggestible place, probably not on top, but nearby, as described by Ty, in the surrounding area, okay? We just do a quick phone ping check. So like with the third phone ping, when I said possibility that maybe Brenner came down here to search about, to get the gun, to get Dylan's vehicle, possibly to then go on to dispose of Dylan, what someone else suggested, which I'll add in right now, that when Dylan was killed, let's say, or at least unconscious, with the horse possibly being within the area, Brenner, this, as I said, this is not by me, this is by someone else. Brenner got Dylan, put him on the horse, and then took him all the way down here, hence why the third phone ping was down here. Possibility that the phone was on Dylan, down at this point. Then it makes me think, would Dylan have been disposed of down this way? So like, if the horse is by the side, near the farm, Dylan's still rested on top, Brenner just gets off or starts walking about, looking at the trailer, seeing what's inside, the vehicle as well. At what point does the horse part ways or, is not used anymore? Flip the image, Little Pigeon Mountain is just there, right? So parallel to Dylan's farm, not that far away, right? I don't think we can do like a street view. No, we can't. That's unfortunate. There we go. I'm just trying to think the footage by other people, such as Pancakes, when he came in, he did like that 360, with a camera. I didn't really make notice of Little Pigeon Mountains. Did it stand out to you visually? Did you notice it in the area? It wouldn't have been significantly big, because there's other like mountains which are much bigger, but we've been nearby. If Brenner is down here at the same time as Dylan, then maybe Brenner did dispose of Dylan round here, or further down that way, near the back roads. I can understand why Ty suggested this place, Little Pigeon Mountains, with it being near to the farm. The question is, has it been searched enough? Or is it still underway? Just do a quick check. Because the road goes right down it. Doesn't it? It does. Like a mile. Kind of like a mile from Dylan's farm. That's fine. That's doable. That's within the area where Dylan could be, so I understand that. As for the other possibility, which we'll mark here, zoom out, apologies about that. Can't quite do the road on the spot, so we'll just do it like very rough, okay? 12 miles from Dylan's farm to Governor's Spring, roughly. Probably a bit more than that, okay? Still doable? Well, if you're in a vehicle, which has been argued that that's been the case when disposing of Dylan, then yeah, doable. Is it too late to do a poll? We'll just do a poll now anyway, and you feel free to vote, okay? So out of what we've checked today at least, okay, we'll do a poll. Do you believe Dylan is in the wash, like the one what we highlighted today, or the Rosebud wash, if that's a different one? Or do you think Dylan is somewhere within Governor's Spring, Bald Eagle Mountain Range? Or do you think Dylan could be nearby to Little Pigeon Mountain, highlighted down here in blue? And then if we've got chance for a final option, do you think he could be elsewhere? And then list it down below, okay? If it's the name of another mountain area, a name of another wash, feel free to do so, okay? Is there anything else we have missed? Anything that else needs covering? I don't think so. But I think for the future, this, whether it be updated, debunked, added to, it can be used again. These specific markers with the blue outlines, So I think that was summarised somewhat well. You can leave your thoughts down below to what you think about it. If there's any other areas that need adding, list it down below and I'll see if I can find them. As said, some of the named locations just don't pop up, show up on the maps. Not much you can do about that, just how it is. But, you know, just in general, a visual telling of, you know, the mindset of Ty Corbin and areas of possible high probability when looking for Dylan. I guess the question is now, you know, will more searches take place in those areas? Is that what the aim and goal is? Or has it changed since whenever? That's what we've got to figure out. Who knows what will happen next, of course. Do I believe that twist has already occurred? That twist, that shock in the story? No. I know we've had it about Candice Cooley's statement being delayed, pushed back. I wouldn't say that was the shock or surprise. I still think that's still to come, okay? I think there's still kind of like drama going on in the background unrelated to the case, but people associated with the case, but not talking about it actively in their videos right now. But I think what's basically happened is their foundations have been built from within. People have branched out, and whilst they've taken their bags with them, their luggage, they have also taken grudges with them, and so have other people that have followed after them, right? So is what it is back there. As for my own experience, wouldn't say too much is going on. If people are talking about origins of rats, at least here, if they do show up, whoever it may be, it's more to do with resistance, right? Rats mean resistance. People that complain, whinge and whine. It's like a symbolism, if you were a bit confused, okay? But in a way, they've always been around, but maybe not as much in numbers as kind of like recently. But I have seen them here and there. They'll tend to show up for the videos that may appear more important to them, whether it be the title of it, the theme, the topic, relevancy of it, right? That's what mainly does it. The second driving force and factor is, if there's no other videos going on live at that moment in time, they'll all huddle together for this one video. Even if they don't like it, even if they don't agree, they want to get their fix of the Dylan Rounds case, or at least spread their opinions or their resistance, okay? And as I said, and I'll say it once again, you get all this resistance, okay? Yeah, and it encourages me more, so, you know, there you go. And as well, I think a very important thing to take note of, whilst you will have all these people bitching and moaning, saying, don't do this, don't do that, don't cover it anymore, it's not helpful, it's not useful, it's pointless. Well, from other people that have watched with a more positive point of view, yeah? And those positive people, or people coming out with somewhat positive responses to my videos, are locals in the area. Some who have seen Dylan Rounds in the past. Quite relevant, don't you think? And if people that are a bit more relevant to the case due to, let's say, location, they may know a bit more, or at least a bit more to the backstory of Dylan from the past, more so than some random individual somewhere else from the US in a different state. And yet the locals, in a way, approve to an extent of my videos. That says something, right? So all the external resistance can be drowned out with these more local people. And we've seen I've seen the pattern within the Kenny Reach case and the coverage there, that all these other whingy whiners and wankers out there going on, and yet the true hikers that have been there, the people that have been boots on ground in the area, the thing that's really regarded as important and the main go-to thing for content and material online, yeah? Those people approved of my style and format of videos. So that's all that really matters. People who are more locked in the case, right? Even the likes of the Shack lady, as for her, in a way she's kind of acknowledged in a positive way, I guess, the coverage, or at least the method behind it, or the reasoning behind it. So that's good of her. And obviously she's been quite tied into the case as well. So that's what you really need to look out for, right? As for a viewer, can it still apply? I guess it's more of like a ladder effect. You look more up than down, right? But I think we'll leave it there so we don't go too far off, okay? So if you've got any other points, any other questions, any other discussions, feel free to list it down below, of course. If you did just join or just join recently, make sure to rewind back to the start of this video to catch up and understand what this video has been about truly, okay? And I'll see you next time. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Good night and goodbye for now.